Welcome. You'll hear a little Haven Perez in my voice today because I'm fighting a little cold. And I want to welcome Ben and Pat back. I haven't seen them for a while. And we are starting a fedora pig pork pie hat contingency, just in case you know. My name is Gary Hart. Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Church. I will be your worship associate today, as if you didn't know that already. As you can see, we have a guest speaker today. He is Matthew David Vasco, a credentialed religious educator, advanced level. So you'll have to pay attention, apparently. In the Unitarian Universalist faith tradition, his show and social media presence, It Matters How We Treat One Another, has tens of thousands of followers dedicated to living their best lives and being their best selves. Let's hope some of that rubs off on us today. Welcome, Matt. If anyone is here for the first time, we welcome you to and want you to know that you have religious exploration for school-age children and childcare for preschoolers. Brunch is served on the patio after the service. It is our pleasure to treat newcomers to brunch. Otherwise, there is a suggested donation of $5. No one will be turned away for lack of funds or for extremely high amounts of donations. Is Melissa Garcia in here? Yeah, come on up, Melissa.
Otherwise, I'll go on and on. Good morning, everyone. I'm Melissa Garcia, your board president. I have two quick announcements. Yes, they are two, and they hopefully will be quick if I stop mumbling on. So Wednesday, we had to reschedule our campus cleanup, our beautification day from that really rainy Saturday. So we are going to do hopefully a power scrub of this sanctuary on Wednesday, this Wednesday, for anyone who is able to come. I'm aware it's a work day, so many of our congregants who work are not going to be able to come. That's fine, but if you are willing and able and capable of coming to help to clean up this, mainly the sanctuary is our my big focus, because we want to get a nice little scrub up before the installation next Saturday. So if any of you can come on Saturday, that would be great. We have cobwebs, so if anyone you have those little cobweb cleaners or a little hand vac, anything like that, that would be helpful. Please come by on Wednesday. We're going to start around 10. If I'm motivated, I might bring little snacks. So come on over from 10 to 2, Wednesday the 14th. Also in April, I'm just going to also put out, there's going to be, we will start putting more announcements in our newsletter about the Pacific Southwest District Assembly that we are having in April. 24th, 25th, 26th, that weekend. I'm not sure exactly the dates. We're going to be needing volunteers. We want as many of you to come and enjoy the conference as possible. We'll also need volunteers for childcare, help in the kitchen, as well as we're having a wine bar on Friday evening and Saturday evening. So if anybody's able to contribute either wine or your hours, all proceeds from the wine bar will go to camper scholarships. Those are my two big announcements. Clean up on Wednesday, and let's rally for this conference in April. It's going to be a really nice time.
I'm going to take a drink. And now for some more announcements. If you let us know in advance, we will share that announcement here and not during Joys and Sorrows. Call us for a campus cleanup day. Oh, you just heard about campus cleanup day, so you don't need that announcement anymore. Remember to RSVP to attend Reverend Joshua Berg's installation ceremony here at PUC on January 17th, starting at 11 a.m. Rumors have it that Chloe Brede will be here. And I hope she brings her baby. We need volunteers for our food ministry. If you would like to be part of this long-running brunch program at PUC, contact Debbie Reynolds or talk to any of the top chefs. And don't forget that the 5th annual Luminescence celebration, our only true UU holiday, will be here on Friday, February 6th at 6 p.m. And now it's time for the chalice lighting. I had to farm out the chalice lighting. Today's chalice lighting words are adapted from Robin Gray. We join our voices in a holy communion of mind and heart, dedicated to the promises that bind us in compassion, one with another. In this hour, we light the flame that signals our intention to find the sacred in every living thing. Thank you. And now it's time for our opening hymn, number 121, We Build a Land.
Please rise. We'll build a land where we build up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives are free, where the oil of gladness flows on water. Oh, we'll build a promise, a land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like a water, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. We'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like a water, peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land, building up ancient cities, raising up devastation from war, storing ruin of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so whole. Come build a land where the mantles of phrases resound from the spirits once faint and once weak, where the oak of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build a land, my people we sing. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like a water, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
I wish you all had the chance to stand up and hear this full room sing. It sounds great. Now it's time for the moment for all ages with Dr. Haven Perez.
Hey, the crew is here. All right. back together. Good morning. When you think of a taco truck, what do you think of? Tacos, very good. Bright lights. Anybody else? Nachos? Go for it. Cheese. I don't know why, but I always just think of LA. LA is so food truck to me. So anyway, that leads us into our story today. The Little Taco Truck. In a busy corner of the big city, new buildings begin to rise. And each day, Little Taco Truck loved serving up tasty tacos to the hungry workers on Union Street. But one day, when Little Taco Truck arrived, he was surprised to see another truck parked in his spot. Hola, Ms. Fall. Little Taco Truck tried to sound out the words on the side of the other truck. Falafel, she said, smiling. Are you lost? He asked. Oh no, Miss Falafel said. I'm here to serve delicious falafel sandwiches. The smell of her fresh baked pita bread and crunchy chickpea fritters floated through the air. Little Taco Truck's engine rumbled. He knew he should share his street. But what if people love falafel more than they love tacos? He worried. He secretly hoped Miss Falafel would find a street of her own the next day. But the next day, Miss Falafel was parked in his space again, and she brought friends. Little Taco Truck crept down the street looking for a place to park. Get your gumbo, whooped Jumbo Gumbo. Gumbo, Little Taco Truck shouted. Of course, Jumbo Gumbo said. Only a big truck like me can handle the big flavor of spicy Cajun seafood stew. Little Taco Truck's tires sagged. How will people even see a little truck like me next to all these big trucks? He worried. If you need a place to park, Jumbo Gumbo shouted, look behind Annie. Annie. Little Taco Truck inched up the street toward a brand new bright yellow truck. Are you Annie? He asked. Annie Arepas, she said, sparkling in the sunlight. Everyone loves my warm cornbread sandwiches. Little Taco Truck sighed. What if no one notices me next to a shiny new truck like Annie? The next day, even more food trucks lined Union Street. Little Taco Truck tried to squeeze into the last tiny space when, bump, ouch! A big pink truck shouted. I'm sorry, Little Taco Truck said. The street is so crowded with falafel and gumbo and arepas and hello, gelato. He read the side of the truck. Fantastico, hello, gelato said. No, not fantastic, Little Taco Truck cried. Little Taco Truck swished his wipers to hide his tears as he drove away. On his way home, he hatched a plan. If I get to the city first, he thought, no one can take my parking spot. So in the dark of night, Little Taco Truck returned to the quiet city, parked in his favorite spot, and fell sound asleep. In the bright light of day, he was startled awake as other trucks arrived. Working up his courage, Little Taco Truck blinked his lights, puffed up his tires, and said, "This is my spot." I'm sorry we didn't make room for you yesterday, Little Taco Truck, said Miss Falafel. Me too, said Annie. We can all fit if we squeeze. I can move my tables onto the sidewalk. And I could move my signs out of the way, Jumbo Gumbo shouted. Hello Gelato cheered when he arrived. You found the perfect spot. I did, little taco truck happily tooted his horn. It was right here all along. And when oodles of noodles arrived the next day, they made room for her too. All right.
As we leave this friendly place, love gives light to every face. May the kindness we did learn light our hearts as we return.
I don't know, the solution seems pretty simple. They should make falafel tacos out of that. Now it's time for Candles of Joys and Sorrows. Leon got the cue that time. We take We gather with hearts broken open, souls aching by the weight of the world, by the wounds of history, by the cruel persistence of injustice. But let this lament not be the end. Let our sorrow carve space for resolve. Let our tears water the seeds of uprising. Let our faith rise from the ashes, not innocent, but braver, wiser, more centered in love. May we be a people who side with love. May we be a people who dispute, who dismantle, and who dream. May we be a people who remember that we are always on the horizon of transformation, where we may greet our collective liberation. May it be so. Now it's time for the reading. The reading today comes from the song The Book of Love. I have volume 1 of 6 right here, by Stephen Merritt, and we probably all recognize the version by Peter Gabriel. The Book of Love is long and boring. No one can lift the damn thing. It's full of charts and facts and figures and instructions for dancing. That part was written by Barbara, I think. The Book of Love has music in it. In fact, that's where music comes from. Some of it's just transcendental, and some of it's really dumb. But I love it when you sing to me, and you can sing me anything. Now it's time to introduce our guest speaker for the reflections about love. We like that. All right, come on up, Matt. What? You? Oh, Blue Boat Home. I don't have it here. Blue Boat Home. Let's do Blue Boat Home. All right.
Can remain seated. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on the mountain plain, far away from the rolling ocean, still
I'm glad we got that in. That's my favorite hymn. And now, here's Matthew.
Thank you. Yeah, you got to get Blue Boat home in, right? It always reminds me of that expression that it's time we start to treat the earth as if we plan to stay, right? UUs are good about that. We plan to stay. Um, you know, growing up, whenever I said I hated anything, my mom would always say the same thing to me. She would say simply, "Don't hate." I could say I hated broccoli, and she would say, "Don't hate." I mean, if I came home from school complaining about some kid on the playground and how he was giving me a hard time and how I just hated him, she would say, "Don't hate." So finally, one day, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I finally worked up the courage to say, "Mom, you always tell me not to hate, but what's so terrible about hate?" And she just said, "Well, Matt, you're very loving, and I just really don't want you going down that path." And I remember thinking, path? What path? And where does it lead? But I was kind of too shy to ask. You know, as the years went by, I finally figured out kind of for myself what my mom was trying to warn me against that day. You know, the kind of things that we humans are capable of when hate gets locked in our hearts, right? Things like murder, violence, racism, bigotry, and even genocide. I also think she was just trying to shape me into a loving, caring, kind person in a world with all kinds of differences and lots of different people, and in a world that could sometimes be a little harsh and a little hard without hardening my heart, you know. But like I say, that's what I figured out for myself. I recently asked my mom, I said, "Mom, you always told me not to hate. You know, what did you mean by that?" And she said, "Oh, did I say that? Oh, well, good." So I'm happy to report that she's in her mid-70s and has still not hardened her heart and is a kind, caring, loving human being that I think she hopes I aspire to be as well. We see the results of hatred every day on the news, it seems, right? Hate's become so disturbingly commonplace that experts have even started to warn us against what they call hate culture. Can you imagine that? Hate as a cultural movement? So I'm not going to spend a lot of time today talking about the modern manifestations of hate and its pitfalls. It's like what Supreme Court Potter Stewart said about pornography. We know it when we see it, right? We know hate when we see it, from internet trolls to gun violence to discriminatory laws. Hate, it seems, is everywhere. When I started what has now become the It Matters How We Treat One Another Facebook page 8.5 years ago, I did it largely as a response to hatred that I saw spreading online and in society. The tipping point came for me when my workplace at the time, which was a church and a school, was leafleted with hate-filled flyers from a white supremacist website. Researching the website, I was surprised at how well organized it was and how it seemed to target young people by making hate look fun. I just thought, you know, if hate is organizing in this way, then I want to organize for love. I want to be on the opposite side of that. I want to speak out against this. So that became the impetus for what is now the social media platform and even a podcast called It Matters How We Treat One Another. I changed it to that name because it made such an impact whenever I would post that on my social media page. People would always say, yes, people act like it doesn't matter how we treat one another, but it really does, you know? So this talk is about countering hate, specifically hate born from intolerance, prejudice, and bigotry. My goal is to encourage more people to join me in this work. We can all counter hate in big and small ways, almost every day. I'll equip you with well-researched and practiced ideas for countering hate and intolerance in a loving way, and for spreading love and acceptance at the same time. Hopefully, you'll feel inspired to speak up and take action. Now, I always encourage folks to try to counter hate in a loving way. And this approach grew out of my Facebook page as well, because sometimes I would post a positive thing about a targeted group, and then some hateful person would counter it with some hateful comment, some awful thing. And what would sometimes happen is that a well-meaning person would say something mean to the hateful person in response. And it always followed the same path, which is that the hateful person would then turn around and say, see, you're no better than I am. I hate them and you hate me. Right? And the loving person, the well-meaning person, had accidentally sort of affirmed the hater's hate by saying something unloving, unkind. Somehow they had managed to make the hater feel like everybody hates. But I don't feel that way. I've never been one to believe that everybody hates. And I think it goes back to what my mom used to say to me when I was a kid. Don't hate. That's what I grew up with. That was expected of me. That was the norm, right? To pull yourself back from that precipice. And I have seen lots of people over the years now on my social media page reaffirm that back to me and say, I was raised the same way. Was anyone here raised the same way? Were you told not to hate? Yeah, don't hate, right? So not only can we not hate, but we can also counter hate in a loving way. And I argue that in the long run, based on the research I've done over the years, countering hate with love is the most effective way to make a lasting impact on the person who was maybe saying hate speech online or something, or speaking hate at a family dinner, right? If you want to speak out, there's a way to do it so that you grab their attention and pull them in, and in a loving way, try to turn them around from their perspective. So it's normal not to hate. Hate-filled people might assume that the people they hate also hate them. I get this argument on my page sometimes. But that's just not true. So often, the people they hate don't even think about them, right? They don't even cross their mind. And if they do, they might pity them. Because identity-based hate is so thoughtless that I think people just say, I feel sorry for you. I'm sorry you have that perspective. Even Martin Luther King Jr., who probably faced a great deal of hate in his lifetime, said, I've decided to stick with love because hate is too great a burden to bear. In fact, there's evidence to show that hatred is bad for the hater. It can actually have health deficits to be an angry, hateful person. It can cause heart problems, can shorten your life. Certainly, it can affect your relationships. I've heard it said that hate is like an acid that eats away at the container that holds it. And the Buddha said that having a heart filled with hate was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Now, with all this in mind, I'm going to drill down into some specific ways to counter hate in a loving way and spread love in the process. The first one, and probably the biggest thing I want to leave you with here today, is to react to hate. You have to say something. Silence is passive agreement. Silence only emboldens the hater. It's important to counter hate and make your case, make your statement. Tell them they're not right. It's not okay. And when it comes to speaking up, believe it or not, a great resource I found for how to speak to someone who's pontificating hate is from a former extremist, Megan Phelps Roper. You might recognize that name, Phelps, because her grandfather founded the Westboro Baptist Church, which you might recognize as an organization that has spread a lot of hate around the United States in recent decades. Megan grew up in the Westboro Baptist Church, and she was taught that life was an epic battle between good and evil. Her church was the good, and everyone else was the evil. And they were out to spread their message far and wide. She even took to Twitter, now X, to talk about this doctrine of theirs, right? Which spreads a lot of hate. And amazingly, she said it wasn't the people who spewed vitriol at her that made an impact, but it was the people, one of whom later became her husband, who talked to her in a kind, rational, thoughtful way. So let me give you some of her tips. First, she says, don't assume bad intent. And I found this to be true on my page as well. Instead, assume, believe it or not, assume that the person spreading the hate thinks they're the good guy, because they probably do. Megan certainly did. Ask questions. Take genuine interest in this hateful person's position. Learn how they acquired their beliefs. They'll feel heard, which is something we all need, right? She also says, stay calm. Stay calm. Stay calm to prevent the conversation from escalating into an explosive end, which can happen. If you are online, you can use the buffers of time and space to help you calm down, right? Maybe if you're in an exchange with a friend on Facebook or something, take a moment, step away, calm down, and then go back. Finally, she says, make the argument. Make the argument. Don't assume your case is obvious. It may feel obvious to you, but you have to actually make the argument because it's probably not obvious to them. She explains, this is a quote from Megan now, we are all products of our upbringing, and our beliefs reflect our experiences. We can't expect others to spontaneously change their own minds. If we want change, we have to make the case for it. My friends on Twitter didn't abandon their beliefs or their principles, only their scorn. They channeled their infinitely justifiable offense and came to me with pointed questions tempered with kindness and humor. They approached me as a human being, and that was more transformative than 2 full decades of outrage, disdain, and violence. When I was at neighborhood church, we had the Westboro Baptist Church come and protest one time. And they want you to engage with them. They want you to get agitated because they want to sue the heck out of you. It's terrible, but that's how they fund themselves, is the lawsuits that they do against people who dare take any action against them, impede their freedom of speech, perhaps get violent. So you've got to stay calm. You've got to state your case. Another great tip that I've found is to commit to countering hate. By joining up with one of these great organizations that's already doing it, right? There are organizations out there that do this work every day. UNICEF USA is a great one. They have a great social media presence. Amnesty International is another one. They've been speaking out a lot in recent years. And your local chapter of the United Nations is probably one as well. There are active chapters here in Southern California. Another thing you can do is report offensive comments on social media. Now, that's a good one because you don't have to confront the person directly, right? There's usually a button you can click to report a post or a comment that is inappropriate without needing to confront the hater directly. And these social media companies have learned they have to take action against hate speech because hate speech can be so provocative that it can actually incite violence. So they know that they do need to actually tamp it down when people report it. Next, counter hate with facts. If you report facts back to the hater in a loving way, you might actually get through to them. A lot of times, hateful things are based on misconceptions, assumptions, and countering that with facts, fact-checking them is a great way to counter hate speech. You can also counter hate speech with love speech. This is something we do a lot on It Matters How We Treat One Another. If you tune into our social media presence or listen to the podcast, you'll find a lot of love speech there. And the purpose for that is to try to balance the scale, right? It seems like social media, especially, there's a lot of hate on there. And the more we can get love into the conversation, the better off we'll all be. One of my podcast guests was really interesting. His name is Professor Matthew Koshman from the University of Boulder, Colorado. And he actually is an expert in persuasion. And he talked about how we can all be more persuasive. And he talked about what's called the likability factor. We might all be a little bit familiar with this from any salesperson we've ever dealt with, right? They're always very charismatic, very likable. And he says that an important part of being persuasive is if the person you're trying to persuade likes either you or the product you're selling, right? The case you're trying to make. So if you can present your case in an appealing way, you might be more likely to win them over. He also said, chances are you're going to be a small part in a very big process for this person. He says, think about a time when you've ever changed your mind about something in your life, changed a perspective on something that was important to you. He said, chances are it probably took place over a long period of time. Any one person might have only played a minor role in that. But many times, people will come back to a person years later and say, that thing you said to me, that got me thinking. That made me start to do some more research and learn some more on the topic, and I did end up changing my mind. So it's worth it. Even though your part may be small, it may be impactful. And the people who take the time to speak to us about things, who love us, we know they love us, and we may love them in return, are the most impactful. So as aggravating as it might be over Thanksgiving dinner, right? To have some kind of difficult conversation with a family member who's lodged in some hateful perspective, the love that you share might be the thing that turns them around. So it's worth having the conversation. Love has a great way of changing the narrative. When we can speak from a place of love, we speak from a place of strength. Another important thing to do is report threats of violence. I think we may, as a culture, tend to downplay threats as idle comments. But it's important to report threats of violence so that people in a position to take action can do so. There was a report last year out of Dayton, Ohio, about a 7th grade boy who wrote a note to a girl in his class saying that he was going to kill her and everyone who looked like her. Now, that girl's mother could have dismissed that as a child with a bad attitude, right? Instead, she took it to the school administration. She took it seriously, and the administration took action and got that boy counseling. Because let's be honest, no 7th grader should be threatening anyone else's life, right? That's wildly inappropriate. And the boy did need counseling, and he got the help he needed. So you might change a life if you intervene at the right time. It's important to advocate for responsible and respectful speech. If people are in a group, for example, that you're in and saying things that are inappropriate, it's important to take the position of, let's try to be respectful here. Let's try to be kind and caring, and as you use, we can put our UU values to work in that group and try to turn it around, right? Offer more acceptance, a more open mind. Teach kindness and tolerance to young people. Hate is not innate. No one is born hating another person. It has to be taught. And just as much as hate can be taught, kindness and tolerance can be taught as well. Calmly assist as you're able if you see hate erupting in the public square. It's important to intervene to whatever degree you're able to. And if you're not able to intervene or it doesn't feel safe, take out your cell phone and record video, because the victim may be able to use that as evidence at a later time. So it's important to get things on video when we can. It's also important to be the first to speak up. That takes a lot of courage, but it's worth doing. There's a bystander effect that happens in people. When something's happening and there's a large group of people around watching it happen, we all tend to kind of look around us for cues. Like, what should I do? What's the right thing to do in this situation? We need to condition ourselves to be the first to take action, be the first to speak up. Because when you're the first to speak up, other people will join you. There's a lot of great evidence out there to support that when people do speak up, others join them. And there's a lot of safety in numbers. So keep at that. Here's a great story about someone who shifted away from hate because lots of people had just a little courage. His name is Arno Michaelis, and he's a former neo-Nazi skinhead. He said that he squandered 7 years of his life like that, being a part of a hate group, until he learned that his hate was silly, unnecessary. He even attempted suicide twice in those 7 years because he was so miserable. So don't assume that the person in the hateful mindset likes themselves even, right? They might not even like themselves. So what's interesting is he said it wasn't animosity that convinced him that he was wrong to hate. He said instead, and this is a quote now, the biggest driver of exhaustion that ultimately led me out of hate groups was when people I claimed to hate treated me with kindness. People like the Jewish boss who said I was, quote, a good kid going through a phase. And rather than fire me when I wore swastika patches to work, just wrote it off as, hey, he's just going through a phase. He said, this is continuing the quote now, Black, Asian, and Latino coworkers who treated me with benevolence when I least deserved it, but needed it the most. Every time I received compassion from the people who had absolutely no reason whatsoever to show it to me, other than the faith that there was a good person underneath the swastikas, it blew my nonsensical ideology out of the water. That took a lot of courage from a lot of people, but it changed his life. And he now says, love wins. That's what we say, isn't it? Love wins. So it's important to speak up for love. It's important to counter hate. There are actions we all can do. And here's a great one for a UU church to do to take action. If there is a hate rally near you or in your city, what you can do is host what is called a unity rally. All right? And this is where you invite all of the targeted groups to come to your church, far away from the hate group, far away from that event, and have something in the name of love and unity and kindness and togetherness and belonging. And what that does is, first of all, create safety and inclusion for targeted groups, which is wonderful and important. And it also gives the news something else to cover other than the hate group and their actions. And it's important to host it far away from the hate group. Too often, we've probably all seen this on the news, where a hate group is holding a rally and then there's opposition right across the street from them or something, right? And inevitably tempers flare and there's violence. Hate groups love the opportunity to get violent, so you have to make sure you're not giving it to them. Host something far from them and keep everyone safe and have an event in the name of love instead and get the press to cover that. That's a great story. Finally, I'm going to leave you with the idea of pressuring your leaders to counter hate. And I feel like we as UUs are people of action. We want something to do, right? There's a wonderful organization out there called 5calls.org. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of 5calls.org. A few people around the room. I think they're growing in popularity, and it's because they offer a really simple, straightforward way to take action for people with our beliefs. And that is, they have a website and an app for your phone where you put in your zip code and they will give you a list of causes and talking points and the phone numbers for your representatives and senators to contact them. And it's called 5 Calls because they argue that with their service, you can make 5 calls in 5 minutes. I used them this week. We had that terrible incident in Minneapolis with ICE. I went to 5calls.org. I found sure enough, there was something there about ICE. I clicked on it, drilled down into that. They had 3 great talking points. I agreed with all of them. I put in my zip code. It gave me the phone number for Judy Chu, my local representative, called her. A person picked up on the other end. I talked to an actual human being who was delighted to hear from me and liked what I had to say. And what they do is those sorts of volunteers or assistants or interns then chronicle your call, and they just like make hash marks on a piece of paper, people who support this or that, right? And it helps the representative take action because they have the support of their constituents. And so it's a great resource. It's a great way to get active. I highly recommend it, fivecalls.org. Finally, I'm just going to leave you with this. Keep practicing love and kindness. Heed the words of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." If you'd like to review the highlights of this list, you can find them on my blog at centuryofcompassion.org. And as we often post on our page, we've got to love the hate out of the world. Keep practicing love, and together we can create a more loving world and a brighter future for everyone. Amen.
Good, good. Thank you, Matthew. That's pretty good. Now it's time to pay for all this stuff. It's time for the offertory. We're grateful for your continued gifts to PUC. If you would like to give online today, you can scan the QR code to give with Zelle or PayPal or even greenbacks. And now it's time for the offertory story. This is an untrue story that never happened. Any relation to people living or dead is purely coincidental. When he was a young man, Carl, who was quite faithful, was sailing in the Pacific Ocean when, due to bad weather and some shortcuts taken during boat maintenance, he was stranded on a tropical island. With great luck, only 2 years later, rescuers found Carl on this island. When they came ashore, they noticed that he had built 3 very nice huts. When asked why, Carl explained that the first hut was his house, and the second hut was his church, KUC, Carl Unitarian Church. The rescuer said, "Well, what about the third hut?" And Carl said, "Well, that was the church I used to attend before I became a Unitarian." Give generously. Thank you, Severin. Now it's time for our affirmation of gratitude. Please join me in the affirmation of gratitude. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may experience the generosity of others. Now, if you'd please rise in body or spirit, we'll have our closing words.
This beloved community is dedicated to the proposition that within all our differences, in all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one, a bond that holds us together. In spite of time and death and the space between the stars, we rise in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Amen, Ashe, Shalom, Salam, Namaste, and blessed be. And now our service truly begins. Stay tuned for some wonderful music from Severin.